So, Robbie, something smells a little bit fishy in here right now. What's next?
It's the next review. It's Fisherman's Friends One and All, which is in cinemas from today. You recall this brief moment at the start of 2021 when sea shanties were suddenly this viral.
Do you remember that? My friend still sends
craze.
them to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Wellerman, and
it.
it was such a big thing. The Fisherman's Friends films have both managed to spectacularly miss this moment where the subject matter was very hot. The initial Fisherman's Friends, which of course was based on the true story of this amateur Cornish choir who were discovered and then had a top 10 album. It was out in March 2019, and now here's a sequel when TikTok's now well and truly moved on to the Gentle Minions and various other kind of wardrobe-based challenges. But that's sort of apt because the whole point of the Fisherman's Friends films, this story, is it's about success against the odds. It's about taking something that is the opposite of trendy and managing to make it reconnect with a wider audience. So in the initial film, you have Daniel May's Jade as record exec goes down to Cornwall for a lad's weekend, I think a stag weekend or something like that, and he discovers a choir and sees something in that he wants to kind of bring to the world. This one is what happened next, and it leads up to their famous gig on the Pyramid stage at Glastonbury. They actually played the festival a number of times, but they had this one year where they were on the main stage, the main attraction of much earlier than the likes of Beyonce, of course, but they were up there, and that was a kind of a marker of, I think, how these sea shanties, these ancient songs, could still connect with the general population. They weren't this kind of relic, but they still had a real kind of a force and a passion to them that people enjoyed. So the story that the sequel traces is to do with the kind of personal and professional tumult experienced by the band, and specifically by James Purefoy's character Jim after that kind of first flush of success. Among the various happenings in his life is that he falls for an Irish singer-songwriter played by Imelda May, who is an Irish singer-songwriter. Her character comes to Port Isaac for some peace and quiet and to escape the eye of the media. And here is a clip of her and James Purefoy squabbling over the proper way to assemble a cream tea.
That clip annoys me because they're having this conversation like not everyone in the world has always had this conversation every single time they have scones.
Yes, it's called scones, by the way. So first of all,
as soon as I said it, I knew you were going to pick me up on that. This is really frustrating because that feels like it's written for an American audience, not a UK one.
Yeah, I don't know. The thinking behind this film, I can't quite get my head around because the first one did fairly well in the UK. It's obviously they thought, well, look, there's an audience for it. We need to get back together and do a sequel. It has the air of a sequel where they kind of bring together a lot of the people that worked on the first film, sat them all down in a boardroom and go, all right, what are we going to do in this film? What are these people going to get? And the answer is basically, some stuff. And then they basically need to fill 90 minutes of screen time before they can do the Glastonbury. Because you can't build the whole film around Glastonbury. Yeah. But you need to have Glastonbury.
That's
you
the
need
climax.
to have Glastonbury at the end. So there's all this kind of soapy activity. Someone falls down a mine shaft like an episode of Skippy the Bush Kangaroo.
Or Lassie.
There's someone kicked out by his wife for talking to this flirtatious woman at a hen party while they're on tour. And if someone new joins the group, played by Richard Harrington, who's a Welsh farmer, which puts James Purefoy's character's nose out of joint because, first of all, he's not local, and secondly, he's not a fisherman. And then also he's struggling, James Purefoy's character, Jim, he's struggling with alcoholism as well. He's struggling with the death of his father. And it's very much like kind of, let's have this episodic, something goes wrong, it gets solved. Something goes wrong, it gets solved. Something goes wrong, it gets solved. And now we're doing Glastonbury. Phew, okay, we got there. And we made a film and we made it last. Interspersed throughout this is the most kind of superficial Cornish colour that you can imagine. So people say things like, I've seen dressed crabs that look more lively. Or they'll have you in a straitjacket before you can say stargazy pie. And look, I don't know, Nick Moorcroft and Meg Leonard, the writer-directors, also Piers Ashworth, who assisted with the screenplay as well. I don't know how connected they are to Cornwall. The sense I had while watching this is of hearing a mouse wheel click as someone scrolls down the Cornwall Wikipedia tab. I'm like, should we do pasty here? Should we do pasty? Save pasty for later. Let's do tributes maybe. Pirates of Penzance. Yeah, do Pirates of Penzance. And so it's very kind of, there's no kind of, to compare this to the films of Mark Jenkins seems mad, but there's no sense of this actually being Cornwall. It has a very kind of touristic eye. By the way, Cornwall looks fantastic in this, as of course it would do.
You can't make Cornwall look bad. I don't think that has anything to do with the film, right?
You can't. And I think this actually goes more for that kind of splendour of the natural landscape than the first film, which I actually found fairly objectionably slapdash. I was expecting something charming and corny from the original, and it just seemed very cobbled together. This doesn't feel cobbled together. It also understands what it has in James Purefoy to an extent, and that's, I think, why his character is left to do so much of the heavy lifting here. You know, it's him that's wrestling with the alcoholism, having lost his father as well, this kind of new romance. But with the best will in the world, the writing and the surrounding performances are not of a standard with him to allow him to do really interesting things. Also, and this is a very kind of like technical quibble, but the singing itself does not sound that great. And I don't think it's an issue of talent.
You've got one job to do, guys.
I know, but look, it's not an issue of talent, I don't think. It's technical. So it's to do with the recording and the mixing. But, you know, unaccompanied male voices in a film like, you know, Inside Llewyn Davis, for example, can be so kind of
Which
powerful.
Is currently on my record player still, because we listen to that almost nightly.
And even when they have that, I don't think it's a sea shanty, but, you know, the and the old triangle at his lowest possible
moment. You're so brave to sing
like,
on a podcast, by the way.
It's like, I mean, I don't have a bad voice, do I?
No, you do not.
There's no bravery required, thank you. But, you know, that style of singing can be so, if it's mixed right and if it's handled well. And here it always sounds like actors singing along to a backing track. So
Poor show, Fisherman friends.
Oh, wow, you've made it to the end.
Congratulations.
Now you're here, you may want to hear about some of our other offerings.
Other offerings?
Yeah, you know.
I know what.
You know, the other offerings, the exclusive interviews we do on our hit subscription podcast, Kermode and Mayo's Extra Takes.
Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah, that.
The one where we speak to the likes of Tom Hanks and Daisy Edgar Jones, and the extra subscription content where Rowan Atkinson told us all about that famous rapping scene in Love Actually.
Yes, that's the one.
Amazing. And where would our lovely YouTube subscribers find this mystical creation?
Well, I'm glad you asked. They just need to go to kermodemayo.com or tap the link in the description.
That easy, eh?
That easy.
Incredible.